Clear out your desk by 5. Michael's voice was cold as he stood in the doorway of my office at Maxwell Technologies. Security will escort you out. I looked up from my computer screen, studying the man I'd been married to for 15 years. His expensive suit couldn't hide the cruelty in his smile, the satisfaction he took in this moment. He'd been waiting for this, planning it probably since the day he promoted his new assistant to VP of Operations, the position I'd earned through years of actual work. "Anything to say?" he asked, adjusting his Rolex, the watch I'd given him for our 10th anniversary. "Just one thing," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "You really should have read those subsidiary agreements more carefully." He laughed, the same dismissive sound I'd heard countless times over the years. "The lawyers vetted everything. But keep dreaming, Emily. It's what you're good at, dreaming instead of actually contributing to this company." If he noticed me sliding a small USB drive into my pocket, he didn't show it. He was too busy enjoying his moment of triumph. "My name is Emily Maxwell, though soon I'd be going back to Emily Pierce." At 29, I was about to become the youngest self-made female tech CEO in the country. Not that my husband knew that yet. For the past 5 years, I'd been building something extraordinary right under his nose, using his own arrogance as cover. As I packed my personal items into a box, I thought back to how it all started. I was 24 when I married Michael, fresh out of MIT with dual degrees in computer science and business. He was 35, already successful, and convinced he was doing me a favor by hiring me at his growing tech company. "You'll learn the business from the ground up," he'd said, placing me in an entry-level position despite my qualifications. "It's better this way. No one can accuse me of favoritism." No one could accuse him of that, certainly. Over the years, I watched less qualified people, usually men, get promoted over me. Every time I suggested an innovation or identified a market opportunity, Michael would dismiss it only to present the same idea months later as his own. But his biggest mistake was assuming I was as simple as he thought I was. While he focused on maintaining his image as a tech visionary, I was quietly laying the groundwork for something he never saw coming. It started with Project Phoenix, a revolutionary AI-driven security system I developed in my spare time. When Michael dismissed it as unrealistic and too ambitious, I didn't argue. Instead, I created Phoenix Solutions, a subsidiary company that on paper appeared to be one of Maxwell Technologies' minor contractors. The paperwork was perfectly legal. Michael had signed off on it himself, though he barely glanced at the documents. Why would he? His wife was useless, after all. Just the diversity hire he could parade at company events, while keeping safely contained in middle management. What he didn't know was that Phoenix Solutions had grown into something extraordinary. While he was busy taking 3-hour lunches with clients and appearing on tech podcasts, I was building a network of developers, engineers, and clients who saw the true potential of my work. The security guard waiting to escort me out was Jake, who'd been with the company since the beginning. He gave me a subtle wink as we walked to the elevator. "All set?" he asked quietly. I nodded. Jake was one of the few people who knew the truth. He'd been helping me document Michael's mismanagement for years, tracking the ways he used company resources for personal expenses and manipulated stock prices for his own benefit. "Miss Sanders is waiting in the car," he murmured as we reached the lobby. Mia Sanders, my actual assistant and the second in command at Phoenix Solutions, had been officially employed as a junior accountant at Maxwell Technologies. Like me, she used her seemingly minor position to gather intelligence and build connections. She was waiting in her modest Toyota, nothing like Michael's flashy sports cars. As I slid into the passenger seat, she handed me a tablet. "Everything's in place," she said, pulling away from the curb. "The servers are secure, all projects backed up, and the team is ready. Should I initiate Protocol Omega?" Protocol Omega. We'd spent months planning for this moment. "Not yet," I replied, checking my watch. "Wait until exactly 5 p.m. That's when the market's close." "He really has no idea, does he?" Maya asked, a hint of admiration in her voice. I smiled, thinking of all the nights I'd worked late, supposedly doing mindless data entry while actually building an empire. Michael never questioned it. Why would he? In his mind, I was just the wife he'd given a job to, the woman he'd rescued from a life of coding and actually using my degrees. "Tomorrow's going to be interesting," I said, reviewing the final preparations on the tablet. Is everything ready for the Forbes interview? Mia nodded. They're sending their top tech reporter. The photographer will meet us at the new offices at 8 a.m. The new offices, a modern glass and steel building we'd acquired through a series of shell companies. While Michael was busy renovating his corner office for the third time, I'd been secretly building a headquarters worthy of what Phoenix Solutions had become. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Don't bother coming home tonight. My lawyers will contact you about the divorce. Of course he'd do this by text. The man who proposed to me via email, because he was too busy to do it in person, wouldn't waste time on a face-to-face conversation about ending our marriage. Should I call Thomas? Maya asked, referring to my lawyer. Not yet, I replied, typing out a simple response to Michael. Check tomorrow's Forbes 30 under 30 list. You might find it enlightening. We drove to a quiet neighborhood outside the city, where I'd bought a house 6 months ago. Another detail Michael knew nothing about. I'd been preparing for this day, knowing it would come as soon as he found someone he thought would be more advantageous to marry. Inside my real office waited, a state-of-the-art command center from which I'd been running Phoenix Solutions while maintaining my cover at Maxwell Technologies. Multiple screens showed project updates, stock prices, and security feeds from various locations. Team leaders are standing by, Maya said, checking her own monitors. Everyone's ready for tomorrow's announcement. I sat down at my desk, running my fingers over the smooth surface. This was where I belonged, not in a tiny office Michael had given me, but here, at the heart of what I'd built. Send out the preliminary notices, I instructed. I want everyone in place when the markets open tomorrow. As Mia worked, I opened my personal safe and removed a thick folder labeled Contingency Alpha. Inside was everything we'd need for what was coming. Proof of Michael's financial misconduct. Documentation of how he'd systematically undermined and discriminated against female employees. And most importantly, evidence of how he used company resources to fund his lavish lifestyle. My phone buzzed again, this time with an email from Forbes, confirming tomorrow's coverage. They'd been sitting on the story for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal how a young woman had built a $200 million tech empire while working as a mid-level manager at her husband's company. The headline would be spectacular. The Secret Phoenix. How Emily Pierce built a tech giant inside her husband's company. A security alert flashed on one of my screens. Michael had just arrived at our penthouse apartment with his new VP of operations. They were celebrating, probably convinced they'd executed their plan perfectly. Should we activate the penthouse cameras? Maya asked. I shook my head. No need. Let them enjoy their evening. Tomorrow will be soon enough. As night fell, I reviewed everything one final time. The contracts were solid, the patents secure, and the client list growing by the day. While Michael had been focused on maintaining his image as a tech innovator, I'd been actually innovating, developing solutions that were already transforming the industry. Final checks complete, Mia reported. All systems are go for tomorrow's announcement. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about the long path that had led to this moment. Michael had taught me one valuable lesson over the years. Sometimes the best way to succeed is to let people underestimate you. Tomorrow, he would learn just how expensive that lesson could be. As I prepared for bed in my new home, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I didn't look like someone who had just been fired and left by her husband. I looked like exactly what I was, a woman who had outmaneuvered those who thought they could control her. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight, I would sleep soundly, knowing that justice sometimes comes in the form of carefully planned revenge. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. At precisely 8 a.m. the next morning, I walked into Phoenix Solutions' new headquarters wearing a crisp black suit that cost more than Michael's beloved Rolex. A Forbes photographer was already setting up in the lobby, which gleamed with modern technology and subtle power. The reporter is waiting in the conference room, Mia said, falling into step beside me. And you'll want to see this. She handed me her tablet, displaying Maxwell Technologies' stock price. It had dropped 15 points in pre-market trading as rumors of my departure began circulating among industry insiders. How long until Michael notices? Maya asked. As if on cue, my phone buzzed, a series of increasingly frantic texts from my soon-to-be ex-husband. What did you do? The stock is crashing. Answer your phone. What's this about Forbes? I smiled, tucking my phone away. They'll figure it out soon enough. Is everything ready for the announcement? Mia nodded. Press release goes live at 9 a.m., synchronized with a Forbes article. All major tech publications are standing by. And she paused, a small smirk playing at her lips. We just received confirmation that Maxwell Technologies' biggest client wants a meeting. With you. Perfect. Michael had spent years taking credit for my innovations while relegating me to the background. Now his clients were about to learn who really developed the systems they depended on. The Forbes interview went exactly as planned. The reporter, Sarah Chen, was clearly impressed by our operation. So you built all this while working as a mid-level manager at your husband's company? She asked, gesturing at the state-of-the-art facility around us. How did you keep it secret? I didn't keep it secret, I replied. I kept it in plain sight. Phoenix Solutions has been a registered subsidiary of Maxwell Technologies for years. Every contract, every patent, every line of code is perfectly documented. My husband just never bothered to look closely at what his useless wife was doing. And now? I glanced at my watch. 8:55 a.m. Now Phoenix Solutions is about to become the biggest name in cybersecurity. Right on schedule, my phone lit up with an incoming call from Michael's lawyer, Thomas Bradford. Emily, he said, his usual smooth confidence replaced by genuine concern. We need to talk. About the divorce? I asked innocently, or about how your client never read the subsidiary agreements he signed. There was a pause. The agreements appear to be more complex than initially assessed. They're actually quite simple, I corrected. Phoenix Solutions owns the patents and source code for every major security system Maxwell Technologies has released in the past 3 years. Your client signed off on all of it. Another pause. Michael would like to meet. I'm busy with the Forbes interview, I said. But he's welcome to read about everything in tomorrow's edition. I believe they're calling it The Secret Phoenix. How Emily Pierce built a tech giant inside her husband's company. I hung up as Mia signaled that it was time. On the wall of screens before us, the press release went live. Within seconds, it was being picked up by every major tech publication. Phoenix Solutions emerges as industry leader in AI-driven security. Secret startup reveals $200 million valuation. Tech's newest powerhouse was hidden inside Maxwell Technologies. The Forbes article hit next, complete with professional photos of me in our impressive headquarters. The story detailed how I'd built Phoenix Solutions while being systematically undermined at Maxwell Technologies, using my husband's dismissiveness as cover for my true activities. My phone exploded with notifications, LinkedIn requests, Twitter mentions, messages from old colleagues suddenly realizing who had really been behind Maxwell's most successful innovations. Ms. Pierce, Mia called out, Maxwell Technologies' board of directors is requesting an emergency meeting. Of course they were. The company's stock had dropped another 20 points since the market opened. Their biggest asset, the security systems I'd developed, technically belonged to Phoenix Solutions, and their biggest clients were already reaching out to work with us directly. Tell them my schedule is full, I replied, watching the chaos unfold on our monitoring screens. But they might want to ask their CEO about the personal expenses he's been charging to the company. That was another bomb waiting to drop. For years, I documented how Michael had used company funds for his extravagant lifestyle, the sports cars, the luxury vacations, the expensive gifts for his various assistants. All of it meticulously recorded and ready to be shared with the SEC. Emily, Michael's voice boomed from the lobby. Somehow he'd gotten past security, probably by using his Maxwell Technologies credentials, which we hadn't yet revoked. I turned to find him storming toward me, his face red with rage. Gone was the smug superiority from yesterday. Now he looked like what he was, a man realizing he'd made a catastrophic mistake. You can't do this, he sputtered, waving his phone with its stock market alerts. Those systems belong to Maxwell Technologies. Actually, I said calmly, they belong to Phoenix Solutions. Check the patent filings, check the subsidiary agreements, check everything you were too arrogant to read when you signed off on it. He stared at me, finally seeing me clearly for perhaps the first time in our marriage. Why? He asked. Why go to all this trouble? Why not just? Just what? I cut in. Just keep quiet while you took credit for my work? Just accept being passed over for promotions in favor of your latest conquests. Just watch while you stripped away everything I'd earned. Security had finally caught up, looking to me for direction. I nodded, and they moved to escort Michael out. The board will fight this, he threatened as they led him away. Our lawyers will. Your lawyers already know, I called after him. Check your inbox. The cease and desist order should be arriving right about now. As the glass doors closed behind him, Mia approached with a tablet. The clients are starting to call. All of them. I smiled, taking the tablet from her. On the screen was a real-time tracker showing companies reaching out to Phoenix Solutions, including every major client Michael had claimed he brought to Maxwell Technologies through his personal relationships. Set up meetings with the top 10, I instructed, and call Thomas. It's time to start the SEC investigation. The rest of the day passed in a blur of interviews, client calls, and watching Maxwell Technologies' stock price continue its downward spiral. By closing bell, Michael's net worth had dropped by half, and the board was calling for an emergency vote on his leadership. That evening, I returned to my new home, kicking off my heels and pouring a glass of the champagne I'd been saving for this moment. On my coffee table sat a frame containing my original MIT degrees, the ones Michael had suggested I keep hidden so as not to intimidate people at work. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Michael's new VP of Operations. We need to talk about the real ownership of those patents. I smiled, remembering how she'd smirked when Michael gave her my rightful promotion. Check the security footage from Michael's office, I texted back. Specifically the conversations about using company funds for personal expenses. The SEC will be very interested. Another text, this time from Michael himself. You've destroyed everything we built. No, I replied. I've revealed who really built it all. The next morning's headlines were even better. Maxwell Technologies CEO faces SEC investigation. Phoenix Solutions valuation hits $300 million after day one. Tech's new queen. Emily Pierce's rise from hidden genius to industry leader. As I drove to the office in my sensible hybrid, unlike Michael, I didn't need a fleet of sports cars to prove my worth. I thought about the long game I played. 5 years of careful planning, of letting him think he was in control while I built something far beyond his comprehension. The security guard at Phoenix Solutions, not Jake this time, but someone who had never worked at Maxwell Technologies, greeted me with respect earned through leadership, not marriage. In my real office, Mia waited with the morning briefing. The board at Maxwell Technologies is meeting right now, she reported. Word is they're voting to suspend Michael pending the SEC investigation. I nodded, reviewing the day's schedule. We had meetings with 5 major tech companies interested in partnerships, 2 potential investors, and a video conference with a European cybersecurity consortium. One more thing, Mia added with a small smile. Michael's lawyer called again. They want to revisit the divorce terms. I bet they do, I replied. Now that Phoenix Solutions is worth more than Maxwell Technologies, I'm sure Michael is very interested in his share as my husband. Except for that prenup he insisted on, Mia reminded me. The one that specifically excludes any business built during the marriage from marital assets. Another example of Michael's arrogance coming back to haunt him. He'd been so convinced I'd never accomplish anything significant that he'd made sure to protect his company from any claims I might make. Now that same agreement protected Phoenix Solutions from him. My phone buzzed. A message from the Maxwell Technologies board requesting an urgent meeting. They wanted to discuss a potential merger, a way to save their company from the mess Michael had created. Should I set that up? Maya asked. I thought about it for a moment. A merger would be the easy way out for them, a chance to save face and preserve what was left of their value. No, I decided. They backed Michael while he systematically undermined me for years. Let them see what that decision really cost them. As if to emphasize my point, Maxwell's stock dropped another 10 points in the first hour of trading. Meanwhile, Phoenix Solutions was being hailed as the next big thing in tech, with analysts predicting our value would double by year's end. What's next? Maya asked, tablet ready. I smiled, thinking of all the women like me, brilliant minds being held back by men like Michael. Next, I said, we changed the whole game. The real work was just beginning, and this time, everyone would know exactly who was in charge. 1 month after the Forbes article, I sat in my office at Phoenix Solutions reviewing the latest acquisition offers. Companies that had once dismissed me were now desperate to partner with tech's newest success story. The irony wasn't lost on me. Another call from Maxwell's board, Mia announced, entering with her ever-present tablet. They're offering 51% ownership in exchange for merging back with them. I smiled, adding their proposal to my declined pile. The company's stock had fallen 70% since my revelation, and the SEC investigation was revealing new problems daily. How's Michael handling the suspension? I asked, though I already knew from our extensive monitoring. Not well, Maya replied with a slight smirk. He tried to access his frozen accounts this morning. When that failed, he called his lawyer again. Should I play the recording? I nodded, and Michael's desperate voice filled my office. This is insane. She was nothing when I met her, just another tech grad with big dreams. Everything she built with my company's resources. His lawyer's response was telling. Mr. Maxwell, please stop saying things like that. The SEC has already established that Phoenix Solutions' resources were properly acquired and documented. Your signatures are on everything. My phone buzzed. A message from Jake, my former security guard at Maxwell Technologies, now head of corporate security at Phoenix Solutions. He's here. Right on schedule. Send him up, I instructed. And Mia, get me the final audit reports. Minutes later, Michael stormed into my office. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his normally perfect hair disheveled. The past month had not been kind to him. We need to talk, he demanded, dropping into the chair across from my desk. About what? I asked calmly. The SEC investigation, the board vote to remove you permanently, or perhaps the forensic audit showing how you used company funds for personal expenses. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You planned this. All of it. You let me think you were just your decorative wife. I finished for him. Just the diversity hire you could parade around at company events. Yes, I did. Because you never bothered to look past your own assumptions. I gave you a job, he exploded. I gave you opportunities. I pressed a button on my desk, and the wall of screens behind me lit up. Each one showed a different innovation I developed, along with its patent documentation and current market value. You gave me nothing, I said quietly. Everything I built despite you, not because of you. The real question is, what do you want now? He deflated slightly, running a hand through his graying hair. The board, they're voting tomorrow. On permanent removal. I need you to tell them this was all a misunderstanding. I laughed, the sound sharp in the modern office. A misunderstanding? Like how you misunderstood my value? Or how you misunderstood those subsidiary agreements you signed? Emily, please, he tried again. We can work something out. A partnership. Your company merged back with Maxwell. We could be great together. We could have been, I agreed. If you'd ever seen me as a partner instead of a possession. But that time is long past. I pressed another button, and my assistant entered with a thick folder. These are the final audit results, I explained, sliding them across the desk. Proof of every time you use company money for personal expenses, every stock manipulation, every ethical breach. The SEC already has copies. His face went pale as he flipped through the pages. You can't? This will destroy me. Like you tried to destroy me, I asked. When you fired me? When you gave my position to your latest conquest? When you told everyone I was useless? Before he could respond, Mia appeared at the door. Miss Pierce? The partnership meeting with Microsoft is starting. I stood smoothing my designer suit. You can see yourself out, Michael. Oh, and the divorce papers are in that folder too. I suggest you sign them before the SEC expands their investigation to include your personal accounts. You'd do this to your husband, he asked, his voice breaking slightly. Ex-husband, I corrected. And I learned from the best. You taught me everything I know about ruthless business practices. After you left, I watched from my window as he walked to his car, not the usual Ferrari, but a modest sedan. His assets were frozen, his reputation in tatters, his empire crumbling. The Microsoft team is ready, Mia reminded me gently. I turned away from the window, from the past, and toward my future. The meeting room was filled with tech industry leaders who now saw me clearly, not as Michael Maxwell's wife, but as Emily Pierce, the woman who had outsmarted them all. The next few weeks brought more changes. Maxwell Technologies' board voted unanimously to remove Michael as CEO. The SEC investigation expanded, revealing years of financial misconduct. And Phoenix Solutions continued to grow, our valuation now approaching $500 million. One evening, As I worked late in my office, I received an unexpected visitor, Michael's former VP of operations, looking considerably less polished than when she'd taken my position. "I didn't know," she said without preamble, "about the patents, the systems. I thought they were his." "Everyone did," I replied. "That was the point." She shifted uncomfortably. "The SEC interviewed me yesterday about the company funds, the gifts." "I know," I said. "Just like I know about the offshore accounts you helped him set up. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" She left with a deal, immunity in exchange for testimony about Michael's financial misconduct. Another piece in the puzzle of his downfall. The final board meeting at Maxwell Technologies was almost anticlimactic. I attended as the majority shareholder of Phoenix Solutions, watching as they voted to accept our terms. Not a merger, but a complete acquisition. The company Michael had inherited from his father would become a subsidiary of the empire I had built right under his nose. As the papers were signed, I thought about the night 5 years ago when I first conceived of Phoenix Solutions. Michael had just taken credit for another of my innovations, patting my head like a child and telling me to stick to the simple stuff. That night, I'd started planning, creating shell companies, documenting everything, building a foundation so solid that even the best lawyers couldn't crack it. While Michael was busy being the tech industry's golden boy, I was becoming its silent queen. The press called it the corporate takeover of the decade. Business schools would study it for years. How a brilliant woman had used her husband's own prejudice against him, building an empire while he underestimated her. The final divorce hearing was brief. Michael didn't even show up, sending his lawyer instead. The prenup he'd insisted on, designed to protect his assets from his trophy wife, now protected my billions from him. That evening, I hosted a company party at Phoenix Solutions. The offices were filled with the people who had helped make it happen: Jake, Mia, the developers who had believed in my vision, the clients who had seen the truth behind Maxwell Technologies' success. As I stood addressing my team, I thought about all the other brilliant women being held back by men like Michael. The ones being told to stick to the simple stuff, to stay in their lane, to be grateful for whatever scraps of opportunity they were thrown. "This is just the beginning," I told them, raising my glass. "Phoenix Solutions isn't just a company, it's a revolution, and we're going to change everything." The next morning's headlines told the story. Phoenix rises. Tech's new giant acquires Maxwell Technologies. Emily Pierce, from hidden genius to industry titan, the greatest corporate chess game ever played. But my favorite came from Forbes, a follow-up to their original article. The power of being underestimated. How Emily Pierce built a billion-dollar empire in plain sight. I hung that article in my office, next to my MIT degrees and the original Phoenix Solutions business plan. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't in the confrontation, but in the quiet patience of proving everyone wrong. Michael tried to contact me one last time, leaving a voicemail that revealed he still didn't understand. "You could have just told me what you were capable of." But he was wrong. I didn't need to tell him. I showed him, and the entire tech industry, exactly what happens when you underestimate a brilliant woman. I am Emily Pierce, founder and CEO of Phoenix Solutions, and I'm just getting started.